Hi, I'm Caitlin Chisholmore, and I'm so excited to be with Ashley Mendoza today. Ashley Mendoza is a mother, advocate, Army combat veteran, and a spouse to retired Army combat veteran. She's a perinatal postpartum trauma counselor and peer support specialist for Postpartum Support International. She graduated from Capella University with her master's in clinical mental health, but was blindsided when she learned about and experienced postpartum depression and anxiety. Angered at the thought that her providers failed her. While she stayed home with her children, she created Evolution Career Center. Her business supports families as they undergo huge life transitions. Ashley is a peer mentor and mental health counselor and coaches pregnant and postpartum moms aspiring to heal from trauma as they adjust to motherhood. Ashley facilitates support groups for those struggling with their identity, who are seeking postpartum support and fulfillment in their relationships. Ashley is also a life transition expert, delivering intentional ways to show up authentically with your wellness as the navigator. Welcome, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. So glad to be here, Caitlin.
Thank you. My first question, I just wondered if you can tell us about your experience as a mother and how it influenced you personally.
Whew. My experience as a mother. I was always excited. Okay, I literally prayed and yearned, for the day that I would become a mother. Um, Whenever I thought about, becoming a mom and getting married and all that good stuff, I thought it would come sooner in life. I did not think that it would come later in years, but as I look back of in my journey, I believe it definitely had its own purpose. It gave me an opportunity to learn about myself before becoming a mother, and even learn about um, kind of like what I wanted my life to look like a little bit. And so, at the age of 35, some people consider that late or old. But at the age of 35, I had my first daughter. And me and my husband, we were super excited. I was, pregnant, and I was going through my master's program and doing internship hours. So I was having a lot of early mornings and late nights. And so as I look back at becoming a mother, it really has shaped me. It has molded me, and like you said in the bio, it really has grounded me with wellness as the center. I thought that I had very stable ways of taking care of myself before having kids. However, afterwards, I learned that it had to be flexible. I learned that it was necessary for me to be open, to adjusting, that life had changed for myself, and to be able to embrace a new member of the family. Wellness looked different now that it was three of us versus two.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I can resonate with the later in life having children. In some ways, it's a blessing because it feels like you got a lot of, like you're more grounded in yourself when you're older. Um, but yeah, it is obviously different, like than what you expect as a child. Like I thought as a child I was gonna have a kid when I was in my early 20s. Like, so glad I didn't. And then, and yeah, like the flexibility with your wellness can kind of like take you by surprise and force you to like condense your wellness, and sometimes it can kind of steer you away and get consumed and you're focusing on the child, right? Instead of yourself.
Absolutely. I like to joke, whenever I was working, a mental wellness day for me would look like taking a day off of work on a random Tuesday or Wednesday, and I would just lay in bed. I would lay in bed and wake up late. I would watch HGTV and just hang out. I probably didn't get up until maybe about 12 or 1, finally, getting out of bed and starting my day, I might get a bowl of oatmeal or a bowl of cereal. No big fancy meal, but this is single life. I'm not responsible for other people. I don't have a husband that's saying like, "Hey, you gonna lay in bed all day?" And so that was just relaxing for me. I was very much comfortable with giving myself that space to take my time to ease into the day and even kind of do some of the things that I would normally do on a Saturday and Sunday. I would actually do them on that Tuesday or Wednesday. So then I would just really be able to enjoy my weekends versus doing household chores. So life definitely changed, bringing kids into the mix.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Um, you mentioned your relationship as well, and that dynamic. Um, how did parenthood impact your relationship and your husband?
Oh, I think it really did take a big hit, to be honest. Um, Before we had kids, my husband and I, we dated for about 4 years. This year we'll be married for 7 years. And the funny thing about it is, the whole time during our marriage, we've had kids. We got married with we got pregnant with my first daughter about a year and a half after getting married. So there was a lot of grief that came up um, with our relationship, because when we were dating, we did so many things. We would go to estate sales, we would go to the gun range, we would go to amusement parks, festivals, you name it. Like, we just enjoyed ourselves and we just hung out doing so many different things. And then I really did have this idea that we would have some time, longer than a year and a half. We would have some time to enjoy each other's company as a married couple. And also, like, meet other married friends and couples and different things like that, and just build this sense of community as married people. And so we honestly didn't have an opportunity to do that. It felt like it went very fast. We got married, and then we had my first daughter and my second daughter. My girls are 11 months apart. And so we had my second daughter shortly after. So, yeah, our relationship definitely, for lack of better words, then kind of like sat on the back burner for a minute. We found small ways to still nurture our relationship and nurture our connection, but it did look different, and I did grieve that. We would have midnight cereal. So once the kids went to bed, we would stay up and we would have a bowl of cereal at the table, and we would just have conversation, and we would just connect and just talk about stuff without being interrupted. And we started to really look forward, to that time. After the cereal, it used to be, it's almost kind of like a code word. And it's like, do you want a bag of popcorn? So after the cereal, then we upgraded to a bag of popcorn. And so we would just grab us a bag of popcorn and we would watch a TV show or we would watch a movie. But that's what we would do after the kids went to sleep, and that was our dates. And then as time went on, we um, we started getting a little bit more outside. So we would take the girls to daycare for the day, and my husband and I would take the day off, and we date during the day. So instead of us having night dates, and dinner and a movie, we would have lunch and a movie, or we would have brunch and a movie, or maybe we'll just go out to breakfast. And then sometimes we would just run errands and just have a typical mundane day without kids. But it really did require us to be very creative with how we spent our time, be very unique with, what quality time looks like, and really not taking it for granted, to have some of those moments on what it feels like to, yes, we're parents, but also be adults and date each other, and nurture our relationship as well. So, yeah, our relationship definitely has transformed over the years. And I would say the biggest key is definitely the communication part. We definitely had to beef up communication, even during those times where we didn't really get a chance to maybe spend, excuse me, some quality time. The communication definitely was the thread when we didn't have those moments.
Hmm. Yeah, there are so many great nuggets in there. I love the finding those little moments, like the cereal. It's almost like blocking out. You have to be very conscious with the quality time. And those are so much more meaningful in some ways too. And like carving that out and really being mindful and then like breaking things down later, or you know what I mean? Because you can't always have the conversation with your kids running around because it's all interrupted and chaotic sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. And um, with my girls, as they got a little bit older, it seems like that's when they wanted the most attention. Whenever we would
Mhm.
have a conversation. So it definitely was like whenever whenever they would go to sleep and we just got a chance to just, hang up and be, like, yeah, teenagers, staying up all night.
Yeah. And it sounds like you really nurtured your relationship and kept that as an important value because sometimes um well there's actually like stats and everything that in the first couple years postpartum relationships really suffer. And it makes sense, all the transformations personally and as a couple, and there's so much change. But I'm curious, what was your support system like beyond just your partner?
Um, so my husband and I were both retired Army combat veterans. And so when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I signed up for this program. It was called like New Parent Support. Um, and so it was a program that was facilitated and sponsored by the military community. And so what it was a nurse practitioner, and she would come to the house. And so I met with her once a month. And so the nice thing about it is, as my baby was growing, she was kind of giving me like different skills for like developmental milestones. We were having like different conversations about, communication with your partner, different challenges, building up resources. So we were having some of those intentional conversations with this program. And so to be honest, I really didn't know how important that would be. I really didn't, because how I mentioned earlier, with me having kids older in age, I had this idea that, the kids would be able to put on a backpack and go to grandma's house, and I would be able to have date nights, and I would be able to send my kids to play dates, to be able to have some of that alone time for myself or with my husband. But unfortunately, we did not have that. We stayed here in Texas, and my dad lives in Florida. His family stays, further down South Texas, by the Rio Grande Valley, Mexico border. And my mom, she stays in Missouri in the Midwest. So, either direction you go, like, we're significantly, further away, from family. And I also mentioned earlier, we really didn't get a chance to kind of build up that friendship community, you know. So sometimes you kind of hear about, you know, people having friends and they're having kids too, and everybody's kind of having kids around the same time. And so it kind of gives you those other people to lean into with similar situations. And so we didn't really have that either, you know. So when I look back, we were kind of on Gilligan's Island. And I think that's what made us, you know, come together, you know, to support each other, you know, even more, because we did have each other. And so we had to lean into each other, even with our stubbornness, because me and my husband were both stubborn. We both have our own way we want to do stuff. You know, my way is the right way. Your way is everybody's way is the right way with me and my husband. Um, but we definitely, having kids definitely brought us together. I definitely say that it definitely was God, you know, saying, hey, I have to figure out how to get these two stubborn adults to work together. Because if not, I don't know what's going to happen. So he gave us a baby. He gave us a baby. And we came home with this baby and we just started to be like, you know, team, I got you. Okay. But yes, we did not, you know, it saddens me that we did not have that support, because with the work that I do, I see how valuable having that support is. But being signing up for that new parent support program, that was my lifeline. That was at least another person that was coming into the house, that was making connection with me during that time. And I faced some employer discrimination on the job. And so I was really dealing with that for the first 9 months of my oldest daughter's birth. And so I had another person in our circle, you know, to be able to talk to and just bounce other ideas off of for resources. And it kind of felt like, okay, somebody else was here in the mix with us. And I also had my dad after the birth of my girls. My dad came and visited with us on several different occasions. Because he stays so far away, he would come and he would stay for about a week at a time. And to be honest with you, Caitlin, I was just having a conversation with my husband probably about 2 weeks ago. And it just now dawned on me how valuable and how heartfelt that was, because now I miss him.
Mm.
And yeah, and so he would come. And I didn't think anything of it. I really didn't. I didn't think anything of it. He would just come and he would just hang out. He would just come and hang out and would just talk to us. He would just talk to us, and he would hang out on his computer at the table. He didn't really want to run the streets. He wasn't into, you know, going to all the events and stuff. We would kind of do that, but he would just be here at the house. And that was really nice. You know, as I reflect on it now, you know, as you see me tearing up, that was amazing to just have someone else in your world, right? They're not adding any type of stress to you. They're not adding any additional issues. They're just there. And that gave us an opportunity to talk about the most random things. Because my dad is a movie guy and a documentary guy, and so it really had me wanting to sit down and just watch TV and watch the latest documentary or movie or just whatever he was taking in for the day. And he was just here. So those were the two most impacting things that I can reflect on in regards to support. Um, and yeah, and that's what it looked like for us. Other than that, we were in the thick of it, heads down, taking care of business.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, the reflection. Sometimes when you're so into it, it's like you don't realize until later. I love that you shared about your father and that you had those times with him and that it wasn't any pressure or anything, because sometimes that can be overwhelming to have guests in that time. But it's so nice that you had that. I'm sure he loved seeing you become a mom as in the early days. Yeah. So beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, he 1 year he was there almost almost every month. You know, he might have skipped a couple of months, but he was almost there almost every month for like a week at a time. And yeah, like you said, having guests that's not requiring you to cook and clean and entertain them, you know. It's like I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
You want me- and you want to have that hospitality, right? Like our instincts is to have that hospitality, but whenever people, sit back and allow us to do it, and then we reflect on it, we're like, oh my God, don't come back.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
don't even have time to cook and clean for myself, let alone a human. And I just found out too with that postpartum, like setting the boundaries, like really having those discussions with my partner ahead of time about, what feels good. And then obviously adjusting when you get there, because obviously in many ways you want to introduce your baby to family and friends and things, but it can take more energy than you have in sometimes. Yeah. I was wondering what surprised you most about becoming a mother? And as a mother of two, how did your experience differ when you had a second child?
Hmm. Okay, so what surprised me about becoming a mother? Um, the most thing that surprised me about becoming a mother is the mental and emotional load. Yeah, the mental and emotional load. I am a mental health clinician. Like I said, I practice mindfulness. I practice wellness. But the thing that I try to get my moms to understand, this is a huge life transformation. The biggest thing that upsetted me was I didn't even read about this in the books. Even through my education journey, I felt ill prepared. We talk about, career counseling, we talk about school counseling, we talk about, geriatrics, but we don't talk about matrescence. We
Mhm.
talk about puberty, but we don't talk about matrescence. That is the number one, like, whoa. It it's that feeling of like feeling like you're sinking in quicksand. And even if someone's handing you like a rope or a lifeline or a pole, you're still sinking, because for me, I was grappling with my own personal, like, okay, like this, how I was being morphed. I was morphing into a mom. Like, yeah, we can, like, as they say, Monday night quarterback, right? And you can kind of like, oh, if I was a mom, I'll do this, or oh my God, I cannot believe you're doing that with your kids. And all that stuff is great until you have a kid, okay? And then you are, like in the thick of it, going through these changes in your body, going through these changes socially, going through these changes amongst family members and friends and with your partner. And now to the world, nobody wants to talk to you about anything but the baby. And you now just become invisible of a human. And so I used to talk about politics. I used to talk about current events, and I used to talk, and now I'm talking about I got 5 ounces of milk today when I pumped. And that is the highlight of my day. And, my husband was like, wow, and then you kind of think about your career before that, and how much you enjoyed your career, and how much of a satisfaction that it brought you, and the achievements, during that career. And then small I
Mm.
felt small, as if being a mom was not enough. um, and I had to grapple with that shift in that identity, of I am enough. I am enough. And I was not prepared for that. Um, when my husband and I, had a conversation, about like, hey, you can go back to work or stay home. And I was like, yeah, I'll stay home, and I ended up staying home with the girls for 3 years. But I was not prepared for that identity shift. What that would mean, for my anxiety, what that would mean for my depression, and how I showed up in my relationship, to the world and even to my girls. Regaining that self-esteem and that confidence that I am enough, um, and it wasn't identifiers that made me enough. It was me, you know, being me. And I am intentionally not putting the just in front of there, because some people be like, oh, it's just, no, being me was enough. And that is a hard, part. Whenever I see, moms grapple with their identity shift, especially when they aspire, to be, working moms. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it's also nothing wrong with being a stay at home mom. But for me, in my head, I told myself that wasn't enough. So I had to grapple with that as well. For for those 3 years, I had to grapple with um, my contributions as a stay-at-home mom and what that looked like. And again, being enough. Um, yeah, I was not prepared for that at all.
Mhm.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Wow, I'm feeling the tears welling up in myself as well, and just so I can relate to so much of that, like the invisibility. Yeah, like everyone just wanting to. It goes when you're pregnant, and everyone wants to touch you and take care of you, and talk to you, and then suddenly you have a child, and it's like you know they don't even care that you exist because they're focusing on the child, and yeah, the identity shift and feeling small and not enough, and like how you contribute, and um yeah, just the value that we put on mothering. um it's just there's just so much to that. Like there's obviously like a systemic thing and a culture that like doesn't value that. It's like even though stay-at-home mothers is like it's like the biggest job in the world, and you're totally helping this human evolve and come into themselves, and like you're also doing so much of your own work, and like that whole those things that come up to mirror something that's not like resolved in you, like feeling not enough. um yeah, it's just I have my loss of words for it because it's just so there's just huge. And I think so many women struggle with that, and parents in
Hmm.
general struggle with that. um yeah.
Absolutely. And it took me a long time. It took me a long time to even be able to communicate it with my husband. Um, I started working at the age of 15. And so I've always known to be one that financially, contributes to my quality of life. This was the first time in my life that I was not walking out the door, to financially contribute. And so shifting my mindset around my contributions and how it supported our family, and how it supported our quality of life. I had to do that work as well, to be able to understand that work now looks different. Um, and even the process, as I was going through that, trying to even have dinner on the table when my husband got home, as if we were in a movie. I even had to walk back from that and be like, okay, this is real life. Okay. And so that's another struggle, is as stay at home moms, assuming all of the household duties and becoming that default parent in all aspects of life. And so that was the next step, is saying, hey, we're a team. And I remember my husband saying one day to me, he didn't like it, but he understood after he asked the question. He's like, why do you call me your partner and not your spouse? I said, well, because we're a team and we're working together. And whenever you think about partnership, it's almost kind of like if you think about partners in a business, or, teams on a baseball field, they're coming together for a common goal. And so whenever I call you my partner, that means me and you are walking hand in hand, moving forward to achieve a common goal. And so he really didn't understand, like, why does she keep calling me her partner? And I was like, we're doing this thing together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it helped him understand more. And so then we started being very intentional. We started becoming very intentional with how we showed up for each other, and taking that load off. One person wasn't the only one cooking, one person wasn't the only one changing diapers, reading bedtime stories, washing face, brushing teeth, and doing bath time. We literally both got our hands dirty. And so that's another, difficult challenge that I see, even whenever career moms, or just moms in general, stay at home. We have this misconception that we just have to do everything, and the house has to look spick and span. And that is a facade that is only in the movies. Things happen like that because both people show up.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it does feel that the partnership is the most crucial when you become a parent, and figuring out how you work together, and um the expectations that you put on yourself and that the other person has of you, and also like being flexible. Um yeah, that's definitely like an ongoing struggle, and like thinking that you have to take it on. I was doing the same thing. Like I still catch myself doing it, like thinking I have to have all the responsibility and do everything, and like I guess it's kind of like people pleasing too, like please your partner, and
Mhm.
almost like be the good mom, be the good partner.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it's too much.
Thank you. It is
Yeah.
too much. That's too much. No, it's like, look, can I get a tap out, like the
Exactly.
wrestler? Let me tap out.
Yeah, like taking care of humans all day is enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to nap times.
Yeah. Um, so you also built a business when while you stayed at home. So your professional life had shifted in some way or inspired by motherhood. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Initially, I was very fascinated with trauma, and I still am, because trauma has a very interesting way of having one to navigate life differently. But after becoming a mom and my personal experience, I was like, why the heck is no one talking about matrescence? How come no one sent me home with a pamphlet of providers, that specialize in pelvic floor or, parenting and nurturing your relationship as a parent, um, different communication skills and conflict resolution. How come no one sent me any resources, for counseling when I was about to, take on the most biggest life transformation in womanhood? And so my husband, he came up with the name Evolution Career Center. And so I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with this? He's like, that's your business. And I was like, what? I'm a counselor, okay? This says career center. And so, for a while, I just toss it around in my head and I'm just like, okay, how can I make this work? What am I supposed to do with this name, right? I was like, how come he didn't even ask me first? And so I came up with the slogan, uh, your life is your career. And so that is our slogan. Evolution Career Center, what we do is we specialize in helping individuals, families that are going through huge life transformations, whether it's grief, whether it's parenting, retiring, career changes, going back into the workforce after being a stay at home mom, or just changing career fields in general, and even pursuing college. My husband and I, we both basically went through these life transformations. And like I said before, being in the military community, there's a lot of these programs that are here to hold you every step of the way as you're going through these different life transitions. But in the civilian world, there's really isn't, a lot of programs like that that's saying, hey, your life is taking a huge undertaking. Let's support you. And not just support you, let's support the family. Caitlin, I cannot tell you how many of my clients have experienced job loss at the same time they're in the postpartum season of their life. That is so like detrimental, and devastating, for a family to already be going through, supporting and nurturing themselves while they're doing that for a new baby. And now they're concerned with finances. And I saw my husband go through that same concern when he was retiring from the military. And even though we felt like we were prepared and planned, my husband, he, got his real estate license so he can be able to have that to fall on. He got his master's degree, and he was just like, yeah, I'm ready. He still experienced a significant amount of anxiety. Like, what am I going to do for money? My wife is pregnant. I'm due to retire. I'm 6 months out. I'm a year out. And I mean, just seeing him go through that. And that's what we do. Evolution Career Center is all about, helping with those really big life transitions that we're going through. We help with family planning. We have different classes that's geared toward being a little bit more aware of the mental and emotional challenges you might be facing during your postpartum season, even some of the changes that you might be experiencing in your family dynamics within your, small family, but then also with your external family, for example, in-laws and parents and siblings, what have you. So we definitely have those different conversations. We have interview skills, we help with resumes. We definitely, kind of thought about all of the different challenges one may face, and we try to put it under one umbrella. So it's like a one-stop shop to be able to feel supported, as you're going through, a very sensitive time in your life. You don't have to feel like, oh my God, I'm having a baby and my husband just lost your job. So it's like, okay, no problem. We can help, and it's all right here. Yeah, my husband, he was a career counselor in the Army, for years, and also an Army recruiter. And so that's his jam. He absolutely, loves staying up to date, on the career market and being able to support in that way. And so it's amazing. It really is amazing to be able to use my personal experience and say, you know what, how can I make this a win for someone else so they don't have to go through what I went through? Because if I look at my professional experience and feel like I'm scared to ask for help, someone else might feel that way too. And so, if I can kind of knock down some of those barriers to be able to make it very normal to ask for help, even individuals that have some of my personal or professional qualifications, um, having a baby and going through this season of life is very sensitive. And so, a new way of being has definitely been adopted for my lifestyle. We definitely center wellness in the middle, to be able to achieve a quality of life where we do feel well, to not only support ourselves and our families, but the community in which we come from. And so, um, yeah, that encompasses everything that we really kind of experienced in the journey.
Mm, that sounds like such an impactful business. And I love that you wove together all of your challenges and all your strengths and experience into one thing for families that's actually missing in the market. Like you don't usually see careers with kind of like family counseling or really helping everyone in the whole journey. So that's really amazing. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because like one thing we have looked at is if one person in the family is struggling, we're all struggling.
Yes.
I mean, let's get real. We can't just only focus on mom, only focus on dad, only focus on the kids. And so that's what Evolution Career Center does. It's a wraparound, um, it's a wraparound, system of services to be able to support the whole family unit, whichever it may need.
Mm, that's amazing. So inspiring. Um, you're also a peer support counselor, and you also work for Postpartum Support International. What is peer support for one thing? And what have you learned with peer support since, um, providing that for families and mothers?
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Um, yes. So unfortunately, I did not have an opportunity to be able to partake in Postpartum Support International when I was going through my journey. But like I said, I want to be able to give back. I don't want another mom to experience, what I experienced. And so, in my initiative to give back, I came across PSI, and I saw, the services that they offered, and I do their support groups. I facilitate the perinatal mental health disorder support group for parents. I do that on the first and third Tuesdays from 2 to 3:30. So, hey, if you are looking to have support while you're in your postpartum journey, feel free to come check me out. I'll be there to support you and encourage you. And then I also volunteer with their support mentor program as well. And so it's been very enlightening. Um, I can honestly say that there are some parts of me that has healed
Mm,
as a result of giving back, as a result of helping others in their journey. It has been very insightful. I've been able to put words to some things that I just really couldn't put into words. And I've also been able to heal, different parts that I didn't know needed to be healed. So it's been a very rewarding opportunity to be able to connect with other moms and be able to see them, when they're going through their most vulnerable, times of their life, and be there with them. I have a very like positive, nature type of personality, so giving positive words of encouragement comes just very easy, to me. And so I find myself doing that quite often, and even though sometimes, I don't get a message back immediately or within, days, whenever they finally, return the message or the call, they're like, man, thank you so much. Your messages are so inspiring. Your messages are so encouraging. I've been really needing them. And so that's enough for me. You know, it's enough for me to know that it was helpful, because when you have a baby, a lot of people want to tell you how to do what when. No one's just saying, hey, you're doing a good job. And sometimes that's all we want to hear, that we're doing a good job. Sometimes all we want to hear is that it's okay. It's okay not to have all the answers. Sometimes we just want to be heard. We don't want any advice or any feedback. We just want to be heard. And that is, yeah, being able to offer that to someone else, because what I do is I think about what would I have wanted, during this period of time, and so that's what I offer.
Mm, it's so nice, the way you put that. And yeah, sometimes I'm just hearing that other people are going through similar experiences, um, makes you feel less alone. Um, and yeah, and like helps you get through it, even just like speaking it aloud and in a group that can kind of understand where you're at in the same boat, not just like to your family or your friends that can, you feel less judged. And in those groups, like it can be so inspiring to hear the kind of like affirmations from other people too. When people speak, to have the extra support. So it's not just from like the facilitator who's like holding the space, it's also from the other moms. Yeah, and I love that through that work you also benefited yourself and uncovered those um unhealed parts, but love that.
Yes. And the funny thing that I also
Oh, keep
found
going.
about that is, oh, I'm sorry. The funny thing that I found about the peer support groups, a lot of times they don't want to hear from me because I'm so far removed. It's very interesting, how they really, really, really benefit from hearing from others that have, small babies right here, right now. And that's another thing that I think a lot of people kind of overlook or don't really think about, is building that sense of community with individuals that have kids around the same age, because um, I think people really do appreciate hearing from someone that is also, having a kid that's 6 months of age, versus me saying, yeah, my oldest is 5. And they're like, yeah, you don't get it. So that's an interesting part that I have found, is that they really do appreciate having that community, um, where they can hear from people that's also, in the thick of it with them. Yeah.
Hmm. That is so interesting. Because I think there's a comfort to somebody that has been through all of it, and you're like, okay, there's a way out, and when you're in a going through a challenging time, right? And then, but yeah, like having other people in the same boat, especially when we're so like separate, um, as families and everything, and don't you, even just going, we have these in Canada have these like, um, kind of like play groups where you can just go and bring
Mm.
your kids, and there's like toys and things they can play with,
Yeah.
and you can meet other
Yeah.
moms and stuff like that, and it is really like comforting just like to see the other tired. Just
Yeah.
like have a conversation about like what's happening. Yeah.
Absolutely. We need that.
Hmm. Yeah. And are there any other tools or resources that you would recommend to somebody, especially if they're like struggling with their mental health, postpartum, or through motherhood or perinatal?
Tools and resources. Well, we definitely have the maternal mental health hotline. That's definitely a resource. Um, Reaching out to a counselor. You have PSI. They do tons of support groups of different, family makeups that offers a sense of community. One of the things that I have now been intentional about doing is I Google, so I Googled and I Googled, like parenting support and parenting resources. And I thought it was very interesting now that I'm not in the thick of it. I thought it was very interesting the different events. I found like a mom's mixer. We have the library. Gives tons of different events. I've taken my girls before to like a library reading day and also like a library arts and crafts. So the library hosts different events to be able to bring your kids out. Um, Elmer's, there's a swim company here, free swimming for mommy and me, but the baby has to be 6 months of age or younger. So if you really do kind of like Google, different things, like resources or mommy play dates, and like I found tons of different things that were sponsored um, and available for parents, and I was blown away because I was like, man, I would have liked to do that whenever I was going through. But the reality is sometimes when we're going through a tough time, we really don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, if I am honest with you, I would say grab resources and put them in a book or put them in a place where you can go to them. So, whenever you are having a hard time, you don't have to research. They're already there, the research is already done, and you kind of already have an idea of what kind of support you find yourself leaning to when you're having a really tough time. Because, and I can personally attest to this, is that when you're in the thick of it, you're just trying to survive, you know but then our clarity gets a little bit better. We can think a little bit better once the pressure is off. So if you're having a good day or you're preparing, for your postpartum journey, wherever you may be on the journey, I would encourage you, to really kind of do some of the legwork now and research, whether it's support groups, whether it's mommy mixers, whether it's mom stays out, with different churches or different daycare providers. Maybe it's an overnight nanny or a doula. Do that research now and put all that research in your little black book or wherever you can find it, so you can always be able to have it whenever you're going through. Because it took a while. It took maybe about 8 or 9 months with my first daughter, to really kind of feel like the fog was clearing up. And then I was pregnant again. I joke and I say my husband, he tricked me. He kept me pregnant for 3 years. You know, I had my first daughter. I got pregnant in 2019. I had my first daughter. No, I got pregnant in 2018. I had my first daughter in 2019. I got pregnant in 2019 and had my second daughter in 2020. I literally was like pregnant and or breastfeeding. Like it was, when I tell you I took a huge hormonal shift, and I am not a spring chicken. My hormones is out of whack.
Yeah.
So if I am honest, if I am truly honest, I would say, hey, find you a good day, do your research, put all of your tools there, and have them. You know, if you have that good friend that can give you a laugh, you know, put them down. If you have that good friend that you can vent to, you know, put them down. If you have that good friend that can, put some reasoning back to you when you're just kind of ostracizing and just like, oh my God, I'm just gonna flip. That's the friend you want to put down. And and so now, whenever you're having one of those days, you know which friend to call. Yeah. So that's what I would say.
That's such a great piece of advice, especially, yeah, the kind of fog and you can't like really make decisions, and to have that just list to just go to is such a good idea. I feel like I can do it now, even though I'm already like through it, but you know, some days it would just be helpful, but
New problems, right? As I
yeah,
get older, exactly, the problems just look different, and they look, I don't know, they're, yeah, it's continuous.
yeah, it just changes. Like you just feel like you get through one stage and then another one happens and you just don't even know. But well, thank you so much. This has been such a rich, fun conversation, and I love chatting with you. I always laugh so much. I was wondering if there's anything else you'd like to share with mothers. I'm going to be sharing the links in the description. Yeah, any other like words of wisdom or advice, and then how can mothers and families connect with you, and any offerings you might have.
Yes, please connect with me. Absolutely. Yes, yes. I would love for moms to connect with me. I am passionate about this mom business because society really doesn't really talk about it. And then even us, we're sometimes ashamed or nervous to introduce maternal wellness or postpartum depression or just mental illness in general. We're very hesitant to introduce it into the conversation. So I definitely like to be intentional with introducing it to the conversation and bring it back, to people's remembrance that, having a baby is a huge undertaking. And so moms are to be celebrated. And so I definitely do programs and classes. You can find me at newwayofbeing.life. We have a new program that would be coming out here soon. So I am looking for beta testers to be able to and help us make it as good as it can be. And so you'll find me on Instagram at new.way.of.being. As I said before, new way of being is my lifestyle, and it has definitely encouraged me to be able to show up for myself, my family, and the community. And so you can also go to our Facebook group, Confident, Ambitious, Authentic Women. You can go to the Facebook group and join it. And there is a couple of freebies in there for you. If you want to get started on your discovering you, just really kind of looking back to connect with yourself since having baby. We're all about helping you find success in your life and career. And so go in there and get your discovering you toolkit. You can also sign up to apply to be a beta tester. And I am going to do a drawing. We have a planner, and so I would like to give that to a lucky winner. It is the mental health planner, and so there's tons of cool things in here. If you're crazy organized like me and just think that you can plan every aspect of your life, this planner is for you. But it's not just a planner. It has information in there about our triggers, some things a little bit on grief, be able to reflect on some of the big, whoa, what is happening to me moments. So a pretty cool planner that we're glad to give away. So head on over to the Facebook group, Confident, Ambitious, Authentic Women. And we're glad to have you. Go ahead and introduce yourself and put Raising Resilience in there so I can know that you saw our interview today, and you'll be entered into the drawing to win. So, yeah, that's it.
Amazing. That sounds so awesome. And yeah, I'll put all that in the description so that people can link off to those. And thank you again so much. And thanks for all the work you're doing for mothers and your family, of course. And yes, it's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. You are so awesome for doing this. Oh my God. I just want to give you virtual hugs. This is
Oh, thank
amazing.
you. I'll give you a hug too. Oh, so sweet. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Take care.